I did. I brought you.
It's a PB&J, don't get too excited.
Oh, no, that's one of my favorites.
It's a
Macaroni and
classic.
cheese and hot dogs.
There you go. All the food groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion to call the meeting to order.
1 second.
Oh, you're here. Okay.
Roll call.
Trustee Stetser?
Hi.
Trustee Lampier?
Aye.
Trustee Keating?
Hi.
Trustee Lightgev?
Hi.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes. Welcome back to the room.
I know, wow, it's been a while. We had to dust it off, I think, right? Okay, does any board member have a disclosure regarding any relevant information or contact pertaining to any of the items on the agenda this evening?
I do not. I do not.
I do not.
I do not. Does any board member have a conflict of interest regarding any of the items on the agenda that is having a financial interest in the outcome of a vote on an item before you?
I do not.
I do not. I do not.
Nope, I do not. So just for the record, if a conflict of interest is identified, then the board member must recuse themselves from participating in any discussion or voting on the agenda item. With that being said, I'd like the clerk to read the open meeting compliance certification.
Did you hit record?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are recording. Okay. So weird you guys are here. The public will have opportunities to comment on specific agenda items when they occur in the meeting and also on general matters at the end of the meeting. Speakers can comment once in each comment window if it is on a specific agenda item. It is not a debate, a deposition, or a panel discussion. Speakers must step to the front of the room if physically able. Alternatively, they may provide comments from where they are seated. If an attendee is participating via web conference technology such as Zoom, the clerk will announce how attendees should signal if they wish to comment. This may differ by platform, but typically accomplished through the raise your hand feature. We are using Zoom, so for our public that is attending virtually, you can raise your hand or put your question in Q&A. If you put your question in Q&A, I will assume you want me to read that question to the board. Okay. Let's see. Speakers must give their name, address, and organization. There shall be an exemption for any category of people protected by New York State law. Speakers must be recognized by the presiding officer. Speakers must limit their remarks to 3 minutes on any given topic. Speakers may not yield any remaining time they have to another speaker. Board members may, with the permission of the mayor, only interrupt a speaker during their remarks for the purpose of clarification or information. Speakers must observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. Interested parties or their representatives may address the board by written communications to the village clerk at villageofpittsburgh.com. All written communications will become part of the public record and will be attached to the minutes for that meeting. At the sender's request, written communications will be read aloud by the clerk at the meeting and will adhere to the 3-minute time limit. If printed materials or other media are provided by attendees during the meeting, they must be submitted to the village board with optional distribution to audience members. All materials will be part of the public record. Private distribution of materials to audience members only is prohibited. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I do know that, before we start in here, anybody zooming in, we have COVID test kits, a lot of them. Please come by, they're free, pick them up. For everyone who comes into Village Hall, you get a free COVID test kit. That's the...
Come once, come
Yeah,
multiple times.
Exactly, please. We like repeat business on that. Okay, so the village attorney does not have a report tonight, so why don't we move to the treasurer's report? Brooklyn?
Come on up.
Brooklyn.
Come on up. Oh, here, we should grab a chair. Let's grab a chair or whatever. Either way. Oh, wow, the podium. Okay.
It's probably a little dusty.
Yeah, I know, it probably is.
I don't have it in front of me, I'm playing an audio tech guy right now, but if there are any questions about any abstracts.
Yeah, there are a whole bunch of Hometown Energy, and they're in different accounts. How is that split out?
Hometown Energy is split between our heating fuel for the buildings. We have diesel gasoline and we have our regular gasoline for our vehicles. So those are listed 3 categories that we break it up.
Any other questions?
There were 2 of the exact same amount to Hometown Energy to the exact same account.
There were 2 different accounts, I think.
Yeah, they are two different.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
they're
noticed
split
that
up
too.
No.
The 70941.
Yeah, it was the .413 has, oh, no, it's a slightly different amount, sorry. It doesn't matter. It's probably 2 separate invoices to them.
Yeah.
And then I also had a question on Toshiba, the printer services for $655.35. Was that a repair or is that a standard?
That is about how much we charge monthly. I think we had a heavy printing
Yeah.
cycle, and we are charged by the print.
Okay. And the mileage for Steve Lapp, did he go to a conference or something?
Yes, he is active in Buffalo.
How'd that go?
It was good.
Yeah?
Good. It's always in front of us. I love it.
I just need the parking exact. I never got your parking.
Did you see?
Okay, you'll straighten it out. Okay, take it offline.
That was
There we go, okay.
Awesome.
Anything else?
That's it. That's
Okay,
all I have.
any other questions for Brooklyn on the report? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second.
Roll call?
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Keating.
Aye.
Trustee Lampier. Aye. Trustee Stetser.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
So weird to hear voices around the table.
I like that you're going back and forth, so.
You know, in line, I keep you guys jumping when I'm going to call your name. Now I can't do that because
I
it's not that
know,
easy.
I know, exactly. Okay, why don't we move on to the clerk's report?
The clerk really doesn't have a prepared report, but I do have a piece of good news. I was notified by New York State Insurance Fund, our workman's comp carrier, they will be issuing a dividend of 35%, which is usually 35% we get back on our premium paid. It will be like 4 or 5 months before we see that, but the good news is they are issuing a dividend. So
Oh, okay.
it's a nice little thing. But on the other hand, that's something we never budget for too, because we never know if they're going to issue.
You don't know.
You
Yeah,
just don't know. It's a hope,
yeah,
but it's good news.
it is good news, yeah. We'll always take that. Okay, well, Scott isn't here yet. We don't have any minutes, so.
No, and I apologize to the board. I sent you minutes out late today. You would have had them, but there was a
We can
family
do them next
emergency.
time.
I delayed some things, so take some time,
Yeah.
read them, edit them, let me know how I did it too in the morning. We'll get them in the next meeting,
Okay.
get them approved.
Okay, thank you for that. All righty. Let's see, why don't we just skip right down then to the non-municipal use permit
Sure.
for the town? Yeah,
Pittsburgh, as usual, they present us a letter letting us know what they're doing for the upcoming months. Nothing different than in the past, except I believe, and Mayor Plummer, you might be able to speak to this, the paddle and pour. Oh, it's not even on here because they moved it to the library.
yeah, they're holding it on their property.
Correct.
Yeah,
So outside of that,
yeah.
pretty standard.
Okay, any questions on that? I'll entertain a motion
So moved.
to approve.
I'll second.
Okay,
And roll call. Trustee Stetser.
Aye.
Trustee Lampier.
Aye.
Trustee Keating.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, let's see, moving along. Why don't we talk about the HPB, the fine structure, Jeff?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just reiterate what I said
Yeah.
as I looked at this thing. It really gives the judge more discretion than he might want.
The judge being Steve?
No, the judge being justice court judge.
Okay, all
He's
right.
the person who would impose the fines.
Okay.
And I think a graduated structure is sort of what we used to do, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And with each violation being, each day being a different violation, you can store them up sort of, if you need an attorney, you can, if you convict the person, then the fines will be at least a minimum of.
Mhm.
And I thought the judge was clear that if we're going to have imprisonment as part of our penalty, we really need an attorney to prosecute these. And I think by and large, Steve can do it.
Okay,
By and large, who can do it?
Steve,
Steve,
yeah, because he represents us and, you know, because he's the one who,
Steve's last name is,
law,
well,
our
okay,
building
I'm not,
code
oh, okay,
enforcement
never mind.
officer.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said an attorney can represent him, and then you said Steve can do it, and
No, no.
that was confusing to me.
Oh, I see where you're going. Yeah, do you want to just,
no, I
Talk through
said,
that, yeah.
the judge felt that if we have imprisonment as a fine in our, a penalty in our code, that we have to have an attorney prosecuting the violations. So by taking the imprisonment penalty out, I feel that Steve can continue
Okay,
to prosecute them as he is.
that's a piece I missed.
Sorry, I wasn't clear.
No, it was me. I just got off an airplane, I'm tired. Go ahead. Thanks, Joe.
okay, I think, you know, thank you. I think this makes a lot of sense. I think it's, you know, really, it's clear, and anybody reading it knows what's going to happen with this process, so I think it's
I would
good.
suggest that on the list of things to do with the zoning code, that be included.
Yeah.
In the fine structure for the zoning code. Because that is exactly identical to what we're replacing with HPD.
Okay,
We don't need to take action until we do the update, we'll lump it in with that, or should we?
I would like this to become local law as soon as we can have it.
so I'll entertain a motion to bring this to public hearing and set a date.
It would be April 21st at 7 PM.
Okay,
So moved.
I'll second.
Dan's got that nailed.
I know,
Nobody was
Okay.
saying that.
I know, it's okay.
it's just, it's weird.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Frieden.
Aye.
Trustee Lampier.
Aye.
Trustee Stetser.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye,
Motion passes.
okay.
That was a compliment from this end.
Yeah, I was like scanning to get the exact words, and you went, so moved, okay, all right, fine.
Okay, well, we're waiting on Scott Harder for a couple of things, so he may be running just a few minutes late. Why don't we switch over then to the HPB, the revised application? This is something that Steve Loff has been working on this, Ginny Searle, thank you to both of them, and also a big thanks to Jeff Pollack for working on this. And then the HPB board had an opportunity to review it and, you know, tweaks and all of that. So what you're seeing is an application that's been streamlined in some respects and giving a little more detail when needed. So the goal is that, and you see how it's just broken up by categories, like, you know, you want a door, you want a window, you want an addition. That way, anybody going online just clicks on what they want. And they can just, that's all they get, and then they're good to go, and they can fill it out. So I didn't know if anybody had any questions on that, but I think it's really quite a bit clearer. And also provides information too for the applicants as they go through the process.
They don't fill out the form online, they just download the form.
They can do both.
So we're going to code all these forms online?
Well,
We have, go ahead. I thought they could
We-
already.
they can download the PDF.
Yeah.
If you
Oh,
have
they
a
download the PDF,
program,
okay.
you could fill in that
Okay.
way.
Yeah.
We don't have this system, our website
Yeah.
currently doesn't allow us to have someone fill it in and submit it in
Yeah.
one click. It would be nice if that did.
We would like to go to
It's
that.
something we are looking at,
Yeah.
but it will be in a PDF form, so they could download it, fill it in, or fill it in on.
But they'll be able to pay their fee online for it and all that. Yeah,
Yeah, we're working on that as
Yeah.
well.
we're working towards that.
It's almost better if they had more interface with Steve, though.
Yeah, that's true too. You know, when they come in, they get the blue sheet on their house, you know, they get background information on the history, so.
Yeah, I would say that wouldn't be something we would want to automate. There's so few of them, and the cost of automating that would be
Yeah.
really high.
Yeah.
So,
So we'll just keep it like it is. Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve this revised HPB application.
I will make a motion to approve the revised HPV application.
seconded.
Okay, roll call.
And can I ask a quick question? So it's been approved, the HPV, they were involved and.
Yeah. I'll go through it again. I'd like to thank Jeff Pollock specifically and Jenny Searle. They
Okay.
really tackled it.
Okay,
Then it was all brought back to the entire board. They had an opportunity for comment. Absolutely. Yep, that's
Thank
part of the
you.
whole process.
all right, thank you.
Okay, roll call. Trustee Stetser?
Aye.
Trustee Lampier?
Aye.
Trustee Keating?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye,
Motion passes.
okay. And right on cue,
There he
Mr.
is.
Harder is in the building. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Wear a mask or?
No,
Well, optional.
this-
It's optional. Yeah, pull up a chair and, yep, we're,
Yeah, I just got a text from Zach when I pulled in.
Not that we were waiting on you,
I know.
but we were waiting
Oh.
on you.
No, it's all good.
So hi, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Good, how are you?
Okay,
All right.
Good to see you in person.
yeah,
I know.
this is different, isn't it, to be able to actually have
I
FaceTime,
know.
for real.
It's good. It's all good.
Some of us anyway, I guess, huh?
I know. So then we're going to jump right up to our first, the first two items actually we're combining. They should have been combined. So it's sort of the Arboretum update, and then underneath we have Scott Harder's survey and quote and all
Okay.
that. So, I think the update is about the survey and kind of where we're headed.
Okay.
So if you could kind of give us the overview on that, that would be helpful.
Sure. I think I understand from past discussions that there's a question as to the acreage of that parcel, the size of the parcel. And I think it was a couple of weeks ago that Jeff and I started looking at what's recorded data. When I did the design work for Grove Street, when we redid Grove Street, I obtained a survey from a colleague that included the DPW land parcel as it was surveyed in 1980 by Bill Larson's surveyor, Herm Klingenberger. Bill Larson was your engineer at that time. And I believe the survey was done in conjunction with the selling off of the wastewater treatment works that were there and the decommissioning of those wastewater works. So the survey was helpful to us in just making sure, where we were with that parcel relative to Grove Street. When we first started Grove Street, we weren't sure how far we were going to proceed with the improvements. So that's kind of how we got that survey in addition to the Pickle Works survey and other surveys. So that survey says, it was updated most recently, I think in 1984. It says that the land parcel in 1984, according to that surveyor, was 11.3 acres.
Okay.
And in a check of the county records, yes, this is a photocopy of it. In a check of the county records that are on file, the tax map people say it's 11.3 acres.
Oh,
But sometimes the tax maps aren't always right. And sometimes when you're looking at a 1984 survey, things may have changed since 1984. And this survey, although helpful to us in our Grove Street work, this survey was never filed at the Monroe County Clerk's office. I mean, it was a survey that was done presumably for conveyance of these lands, but I don't see any indicator on here that this map was filed. And in my check at the Monroe County Clerk's office, they did not have this map on file. So then
Scott, they really didn't have any indication where the 11.3 acres came from either, did they?
I haven't drilled into them a little more on that.
Okay.
So,
Misunderstood.
some of the work we did was just preliminary to see, I mean, if we put an effort forth and everything checks, then we don't have to really have this conversation. But I think that's what I know so far about this. And then Jeff checked the deeds. And if you use the information in the deeds, well, then you come up with another number, right? You come up with somewhere in the 10 acres.
A little under 10 and a half.
Yeah, so the only way that you can really resolve this is to go through and do a complete boundary survey, instrument survey.
and this is what we're looking at here.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But that's part of what I propose, but I also know that you want to look at the use on the property. I know that you want to consider the use of the buildings and the roads and the other physical features to go along with that, so that you have an understanding of how this property is being used. So if you have to make some sort of a change, you have the layout of the land as it currently is, including the arboretum and the limits that we established, that we picked up last year, which I assume are still the same. So all of that would be on one survey that you could look at, and then if you needed to make planning decisions, like, what if we add on to the DPW garage, can we go in this direction, or do we have to go in
Sure.
that direction? Are we on our property, are we on the canal property, whose property are we on? That's the benefit to having that information. Right now, because we have conflicting information, I can tell you that that parcel of land is somewhere between 10 and 12 acres in size. If that's all you need to know, then we're done, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, and the deeds from 37, which is how we got the 13 and a half acres, are very plus or minus, maybe this is right, So I have a feeling that it's closer to the 11 and a half than it is the 10 and a half.
Wait, Jeff, can you back up for just a second? You said the deeds from 1937 said that it was an 11 and a half, but I thought that
No.
Scott said it
It
was
was-
10.5.
Okay, so I'll give you the full picture. Back in 1937, the village had an option on 3 parcels. I'm not sure I'm going to get the math right. The total was 13 and a half acres.
Okay.
Later in that year, maybe in the subsequent year, they exercised that option. And they bought what they assumed was 13 and a half acres. Then in 1985, after several years after the decommissioning of the waterworks, they made a deal with Ted Spall to put that project in. And they sold off 3 small parcels totaling 3-point-something acres, 3.0, so very, very close to 3 acres. So that's why on the deeds and the abstract that we've got, it looks like there's 10 and a half acres. But when they did that survey, I think Scott would say that his knowledge is that they found some railroad markers that were physical,
Right.
demonstrate a more accurate physical boundary. So an acre is a lot to be off by, even in 1937.
yeah.
So the first step, I'm sort of stepping on Scott's toes here a little
Well, that's okay.
bit, but the first step to do any survey is to redate the abstract and title. So so the surveyor knows exactly what we've got.
Right, and the abstract of title is the history of the land up to this particular point in time. What's taken place, what's on file, what easements may be running through there, what conveyances may have happened. And I think you were able to find an abstract, right? You were able to find an abstract, but it's not current, right?
It's not current.
Right.
So I think the board approved the redate.
We did.
But we didn't do it because it doesn't make a lot of sense to redate the abstract if you're not going to do the survey.
Right.
So I sort of stopped at waiting to get approval or not approval from the board about Scott going forward with the survey. I mean, the redating the abstract is probably going to be somewhere between 300 and 800. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
It's a really old, if it was redating 85, which I suspect, that's close to 20 years, it's not quite 20 years, but that'll be an expensive redate. Not anywhere near as expensive as if you hadn't found the abstract. So it'll be under 1,000, I'm pretty sure, but how far under 1,000, I don't know. But why spend the money if you're not going to use it?
Just to update the abstract, to
Right.
redate the abstract.
Yeah, there's really no reason to spend that money unless you got something going on, which in this case would be the survey.
Right, and in the process of updating it, then the abstractor goes through and searches all the filed records. That's what the money is for, to do that research and see what pops up. And then they are experts at that.
Right.
And so then for the survey component, we take a look at the history, we take a look at what we find in the field, we take a look at mapped information, and we put the pieces of the puzzle together. And in most cases, things make sense. So then we can define the project boundary, or the land boundary, and we can also then show you where the features are, the physical features, the buildings, the trails, the roadway coming in and all that, so that you can take a look at that and do your planning accordingly.
And to be clear, you deliver the drawings, and it's as PDF, a picture, the whole thing. And then we file with the county, and that's the step that didn't happen in the 80s. You file or we file?
Well, normally the way it works is that when there's a land transfer and there's some sort of approval on a local level, like a planning board approval, then with the planning board chairperson's signature, the map is filed at the county clerk's office. But I think you can still file a map if you want to, right?
Right, yeah, I would think so, but sort of how this is all dovetailing is that the village dedicated an undescribed 10 acres of parkland. Part of the process is, I would think, describing where that is, so the village knows where it is, everyone knows where it is. And then you might want to file that, whether you do an official subdivision or not, you might want to file that map so everybody knows where the parkland is. So.
And I think that's what I was searching for, is that when a subdivision happens, and there's a sign off by the local authority for that subdivision, then the map is typically filed. So if you convey off a piece of property, usually a subdivision goes hand in hand with that, especially in rural county these days, due to so many issues that have emerged by not doing that, and doing conveyances and then trying to play catch up later.
Okay, and then you already have the information, the parcel that the DPW is on? Or do we need to really
I have,
look at that? Okay, so that's another component. Oh, okay, so that's a component as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, if you know what part is devoted to parkland, you know what's left to devote to the DPW. If you have the survey of the whole,
Could I see that map?
sure.
and then you carve off whatever part for the parkland, whatever is left is all that's left for the DPW.
Okay, so, yeah, all right, I see where you're going with that. So
it's,
if
Why
it's
wouldn't we
the,
do it the other way, given that the DPW is there and already, because what happens if we miscalculate the,
no, we won't. No,
Okay.
we won't. That's not possible, because when Scott does his survey, he's going to put on that survey, well, Scott probably won't do the survey, but whoever does the survey.
No, I'll do the survey with my surveyor.
Yeah, so when that survey is done, it's going to show you exactly where the DPW is.
okay,
It'll show you where all the trails are, where all the improvements are,
right,
show you where the canal lands are, show you where the railroad lands are, it'll show you where Spall's lands are.
Correct.
It'll show that whole parcel, which is sort of a wedge.
And then how you fit in your acreages with what's going on, that's up to you.
yeah, that's,
So
okay, so.
however you do that.
So, but just so I'm understanding, because we have 10.5 acres, maybe 11.3, we're looking at a couple different numbers here.
Mhm.
We know if it's 10.5 or 11.3, 10 are already designated as parkland,
Correct.
which would leave out of 10.5 a half an acre then, potentially?
I honestly, my gut is that we're closer to the
The 11?
11.3 than the 10.
So it'd be a 1.3 potentially, okay,
I mean, that's just my guess. Who knows?
okay.
so.
Yeah, we need to find out, yeah.
So Jeff, just from a process standpoint, the village board designated 10 acres. And if we determine that there isn't enough to accommodate 10 acres for, the Arboretum, because there's less than we anticipated, do we have to go back and
To go to the
redo something?
legislature.
Yeah, it's an act in Albany with the legislature.
You'd have to decommission parkland as a legislative act.
Yeah.
Like if we found out the DPW was,
Landlocked?
yeah.
Well, that's part of the advantage of not having allocated the 10 acres anymore,
Okay,
because you can sort of settle them where you need them to be settled. And
okay.
hopefully what you have left will be enough for the DPW. If it's not enough left, presumably, I have never decommissioned parkland. I have no idea how they look at it, but I assume that if you say that's our DPW, we really need enough room to operate, probably that would be a pretty strong consideration. I mean, I
Don't
just,
need to cross that.
yeah, right, exactly. I mean, if we have 11 and a half acres or 11.3 acres or whatever it is, that may very well be enough for the DPW. But certainly, I'm not a planner, and I couldn't tell you that. And that would be the next step if you thought, gosh, we don't know if we have enough land for the DPW. Then you would go to a planner and say, hey, what are you thinking? Where's this going to go? What do you want to do? And the planner will tell you roughly what you need and where to do it.
Would you be able to help us with that assessment?
Yeah, I mentioned in our conversation that I worked with an architect on the DPW building when it was reviewed for structural limitations. There was I think some type of a tour by maybe someone in the insurance company. Yeah, and they flagged a number of items, and so I brought in an architect who's very good with structural, to go through and take a look at the building and see what needed to be done in order to bring it into a satisfactory condition. So my recommendation is that you might want to consider contacting him, and because he's good in a variety of aspects, such as needs assessments and that sort of thing for various buildings. Because I've worked with him, for example, on town halls in our community and elsewhere, and DPW garages for that matter.
So once we get the survey done and kind of, here's what we know we have, then this would be, I'm thinking like as you say, the next step.
Right, and then you can do your what if scenarios on that, and I mean, for all the projects we do, whether they're public or private, the best practice is always to have the survey solid.
Yeah.
And once the survey is solid and the boundaries there, and you know what your physical limitations may be.
So it's your starting point.
Yeah,
basically.
then you can make sound decisions from that.
Okay.
What if there's debate over the boundaries of the other parties?
There could be. I mean, sometimes we've gotten into situations where we get out there and we find that based on our deed and our information, the property line falls here, but it disagrees with someone else's. It wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah.
And so what usually happens in those cases is we contact the other party and we see if we can negotiate a boundary line agreement. And that happens to me quite often on lake projects, and lake properties being of the value that they are typically. Sometimes if the error is relatively small, say a foot, out in a rural situation, it's not really a big deal, but a foot in Manhattan, for example, is a big deal.
It's a little bit different.
It's relative to where you are and the sensitivity around you.
Jeff, did you have something to add?
Yeah, and if contacting the owner to negotiate doesn't work, then you do a quiet title action.
Oh.
You go to court,
Okay.
and you get the boundaries established.
Okay. So it's solvable.
It's all doable.
As Scott points out, I mean, 99 out of 100 are going to be, this is what we got, what do you got, let's figure it out.
And what makes this parcel different is because of its history as we know it so far and what was used for originally. I was thinking coming over here how I might explain this, and I think the way I explain this best is, I'm a homeowner, I have a piece of property that I purchased that's in a recorded subdivision in Ontario County, and that parcel of land is very well platted and described and understood. And as the properties that I own and the properties around me exchange hands periodically, most of the time the surveyors are doing what's called a retracement survey. It's just almost an exact duplicate of what was there before because nothing's changed. There may be a couple of easements or something that went through there, but in this particular case, we're going back to 1937. This property hasn't changed hands multiple times. It's largely been in the hands of the village of
It's been
Pittsburgh.
with the village since 37.
But there've been people around us that have done
Yeah.
things. The railroad, the neighbors to the west, Spall to the east, I believe, and then the Canal Corp. So all those players need to be checked to see what actions took place because we don't have perfect knowledge at this point.
Okay, this is
I
helpful.
would have thought we had done one when Spal put the development back there.
I think that's what.
That was the one.
They got that.
I think that's what that is, but,
Okay.
well, but it doesn't mean it's not,
Yeah, that was your
it doesn't mean it's inaccurate. It just means that we don't know where the surveyor got that information to do that work.
And the surveyor does reference on that map, and that's another thing that we would check out. He references his sources of information that he used to create that map. And so as part of our work, we would chase down that information as well and see, for example, I love these reduced copies. He's referencing a state of New York, looks like canal map. He's referencing a railroad map, and he's referencing a survey filed by Urban and Anthony in 1968. So all of that we would check for to see how that compares with what we have to work with.
Okay.
By the end of this, you will know what you've got.
Yeah, no, this is helpful, just to understand the
Yeah.
process and kind of where we're at and what we need.
Sometimes on a piece of property like this, it can be challenging. For me, I like this stuff. This is something I enjoy doing.
That's why you do what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The ones that are in the city of Rochester, for example, that have been established ever since the beginning of time, I mean, those are just 60 by 100-foot lots. You measure down here and you're all done. This is much more challenging and different.
Okay, so, yep, Justin?
Sure. I think that the idea of the survey is an important one based on this property, and it sounds like it hasn't been surveyed since the 80s or so. I guess personally, when I'm looking at the maps, and I think I actually took the shapefile off of the county website, measured that up, that's about the 11.3. From the aerial pictures and then from on-the-ground mapping, it seems to correspond with about that size. I realize there could be some variance in that, but I haven't really seen any particular boundaries of concern. It seems like what we've been told that we have in those most recent surveys that the county does have on file. They don't have the survey that we've done, but they've got the property lines, right?
Right.
And I understand that's a different thing. But what I've seen seems to correspond with the maps and the shapes that they have. So I guess personally, I don't really have a lot of reason to doubt that the boundaries are essentially in that form. It seems like the dedication of the parkland, Jeff, I think that you mentioned that it was not specified where it is. I believe that it was specified, actually, it's the 10 wooded acres behind the DPW building. And when you look at the aerial photos, when you walk the ground, it's actually pretty much clear where that is too. I think that it could have been better mapped. I think that it could be much more clear, and it should be made much more clear, but it's not totally unspecified. It seems like there also is work on the DPW building that needs to be done. I've been in there, and Zach has showed me around. It seems like there are a lot of projects. It sounds like the architect identified other projects. But it doesn't sound like we know exactly what we want to do there either. So I guess what I'm getting to here is that I think the cost that was assessed for the survey is reasonable, $3,600, I think it was, based on the size of the parcel, that seems fine. But I'm just wondering if this is the right step right now, rather than having the more specific needs drive out what the precise mapping indicators are. So rather than doing this $3,600, which doesn't have an immediate deliverable to the public, when I talk to people out there, they want to be able to walk their dogs, they want to be able to take their families to the park. They can do that right now. And I think that, similarly, the DPW has needs of other buildings. There are things to fix. Certainly we've got to make it a safe environment that addresses the comfort needs of the staff there. I guess that I'm wondering, instead of spending $3,600 now, what about assessing those, what the plan is for the Arboretum and what the plan is and needs for the DPW building, and then having the precise boundaries drawn out? Because I don't see the subdivision coming right now before we actually understand those two other pieces anyway. So I guess I'm just proposing that alternative order of things.
Well,
So when
no, please go ahead.
when I use the word describe, I meant describe meets and bounds.
Mhm.
So you don't really know where it is. And, I don't do any planning, but it would seem to me that you need to know exactly what's there before you can brainstorm exactly what you want to do with the property. So I kind of think the order might be the reverse of what Trustee Lightgev indicated. You would say, okay, here's exactly what the buildings are, here's exactly what we've got left, here's where it is, we would like to see this, we'd like to see this for the DPW, we'd like to see this for the parkland, and then you would talk to a planner and say, how do we make that work?
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, I kind of think the survey is the predicate for everything, but maybe Scott, I don't know if you feel that's why or not.
Well, like I said, in really all the projects we do as a best practice, we always get this to survey grade at the beginning, and then we don't have the situation that you're in right now, as I see it, because we don't find out, for example, that we've got a setback violation, or that we ended up creating lots that were substandard to the zoning of where we're working. But I agree with what you're saying on the 11.3, because I went to the county's site too, and I thought it was interesting that the 11.3 was in agreement with what they have. And when I drill into the county, I always hit that disclaimer that they have, that this is their information, but they can't certify it to survey grade, and they shouldn't.
That's not their job, really, is it?
Yeah, it's their job to record things.
Yeah,
Now,
record.
did they record everything as it was presented to them? They probably did, but did they get everything? There's something based on Jeff's numbers that show a discrepancy, and I think it all comes down to, the confidence that you may be seeking here.
Yeah,
I guess I would say that the problem for me is I can find 10.38 acres. This 11.3, I don't know where they came from. I don't know how they got there. If it's a case of inaccurate survey work in 1937, then that would be important to know. If it surveys out, though, and it's 37 deeds are closer than the 85 map, then you got a problem.
Yeah, okay.
So it really is, I think, the best time to know what you've got, so you know what you can do with it.
Thank you.
Yes, Zach, sure.
I would feel that it would benefit the DPW's functionality to define these property lines, just so we know how to move forward without causing any more uprush between taking over some of the property that may be defined as the Arboretum or not. So we know where to move freely, where we can start establishing safety boundaries for people to be able to access our functioning.
And
make sure you have enough land, for your needs.
That would put us
Okay.
at ease there, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Can I just ask a question about that, though? Because my understanding of the survey is that it's the parcel boundary, not necessarily the exact lines of the arboretum, which would essentially be a board determination to figure out exactly where those are. So I guess, I think that what you're talking about, Zach, I think that is extremely important. It's a little bit in the wrong order if we're getting the survey done before we talk about what we want to do as a board. So I guess I would put that first.
Noted.
But you can't get to where Zach wants to get to without a survey.
I understand the sentiment, like, this is money that we could put towards something else if we paused on doing the survey. I think it's better to know what you have. I mean, you do this when you buy a house, you do it when you build. I'm not comfortable with ambiguity. If we go and decide to do some work on the Arboretum or on the DPW, and then later we do the survey and find out we have to undo things, that's not a good use of resources either. So I'm more comfortable. I understand the sentiment of, maybe putting the money towards something else right now until we have a clearer idea, but I'm most comfortable doing the survey so we know what we have before us.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the contract as submitted to do the survey of the DPW land parcel submitted by Scott Harder.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, further discussion?
We have discussion.
Yeah, further discussion, yeah. I just wanted to, put it
If we
out
have a
there.
little bit on.
Yep.
So as I understand, are you suggesting, Justin, to separate these out? And do you have an alternative motion, is my question.
Sure.
Or have you-
I don't want to interrupt a motion on the.
Well, we have a
floor.
motion on the floor.
I just want to know what
Informally, my proposal
what
is that
his thinking is here.
we would sketch out what we envision as a DPW boundary. We would sketch out what we envision as the delineated parkland first. And then we would go and push further into the needs on the DPW side. Probably not to the extent of hiring architects and everything, but just identifying what those needs are, maybe getting an architect who specializes in, just making a punch list of things that should be addressed, and going for more concept ideas on the Arboretum side to see what might be needed there. And with that information, going back with the surveyor and seeing if the ideas that we have about those two different projects correspond with the actual updated survey.
So if what you're describing, if we try to define those lines without knowing the exact area that we're working with,
Yeah, I don't understand it. So I'm good at.
if we encroach on
Yeah.
that 10 acres, we're still kind of back to.
Well, I think.
Yeah, so to answer that, Zach, I think we should stay with what our lawyer, our trusted engineer, and our DPW staff member are all suggesting, which is to do this study. I'm in agreement, so can we vote?
Well, I believe.
You've
we should
already
discuss.
you've made your point several times.
And we won't be
And
doing
there's
all
a
those
vote.
things. We're just talking about it, we understand you want a different order for it, but all of these things will be done, but I'm in agreement as
The
well.
madness
Yeah.
of us drawing the lines
I-
when we could just ask for $3,300, which is 0.2% of our
36.
budget, 3,600, 0.2% of our budget. It's just money well spent.
Yeah, I think it
Thanks.
is. We determine things accurately and move forward, which is a good thing. So, okay, one
Yeah.
last comment, and then we're going to vote.
Okay, thank you. What I'm not proposing is that we just draw the lines out that we
Those
pretend
were the
we're
words you
surveyors.
said. I literally quoted you back to yourself. You
Dan,
literally said
I was
those words.
recognized and I have the floor. Am I out of
Okay.
order?
Okay, let's,
Those are the rules of procedure. If you
Okay.
would like to interrupt me, then I think we should go back to the rules of
Okay.
procedure and decide.
point of order, I'm bringing this back. Please finish your comment, and then we will vote.
Throughout the history of the Arboretum Board, we have had thousands of dollars in legal fees spent, and what we've ended up getting are closed trails and the lack of the ability of the public to use the space the way that they did before. I don't think that's legitimately been a great.
I'm going to interrupt you there. The trails are not closed. We have many points of access to that arboretum. Are all the trails closed? You've been clearing them all winter, haven't you? Okay, yeah, I just want to get that on the record for the public. The trails are not closed.
Okay, well then, let me clarify. The area by the DPW, between the gates of the DPW and the row of hay bales.
We
is
covered
closed
this
right
ground
now.
before. Our insurance company made this recommendation because there was safety issues that were brought up by the DPW with people walking back there.
And
We have covered this in numerous public
Mayor,
meetings.
may I finish my statement, please?
Yes, you may, but I'm concerned about the misinformation that's being put out.
Every time that I've been back in that area, there are no DPW employees between the gate and between the hay bales. There's a big pile of mulch, and I am not sure why that area is blocked off. I realize we've gotten lots of different expert opinions, which have resulted in the closure of different parts of the Arboretum over time. I realize that certain parts have been opened up again. That is something that I actually expected in the updates today. We have the upper area of the Arboretum, which has been closed for safety reasons. It was stated by our building inspector. And now that area is open again. So were those safety issues resolved, or has that been, what's the?
Really mixing
Could we
things
have
up.
a-
We have a motion on the
Like an Arboretum
floor
update.
for a survey to be done on this property. We are now addressing things that aren't even on the agenda. And if you'd like to re-agenda the item, we can do that. But we have a motion before us, and I'd like this board to take action.
I think that we can talk about the history of the Arboretum, since this is supposed to be an Arboretum update, and we're talking about the parcel of the Arboretum. So I would like an answer to that question then.
Okay, and then we're going to vote.
All right, so if you're talking about the upper area, yes, so now that the seed that we had broadcast through the area of disturbed soil is taking effect and we have growth in there, it is no longer necessary to block it off.
And that was Steve Love, that was our code enforcement officer went up there, and he felt that it was better stabilization of the top of that.
That's
Yeah.
inconsistent. with
Not
the story.
necessarily saying that what's in the ground has been removed, because a lot of it's still there.
So I have emails from last spring, and it was found, I have the dates here, it was found that the area had reached stabilization, and so the silt fences were removed from the left part of the Arboretum, as you're looking at the upper part, and they were replaced on the right-hand part, which was stated by our building inspector in an email to this board, that it was dangerous because of things like tires, cement, potholes, and so it was a safety issue, not a soil stabilization issue.
There were
And
both.
as far as I know, those safety issues were, I could never identify them when I went up there. I didn't see a single safety issue. And now that area has been opened up.
But then
So
I would take that up with the building inspector, because he identified it, and that was in his report.
Shall we vote?
unfortunately, this issue
Yeah.
has really been a political one with this board.
Oh,
And we've gotten
How
lots
so?
and lots of expert opinions, and we have more closed area.
I think it's been politicized because people don't want to hear what expert opinions are being provided to this board. We do have a motion. I'd like to call it to a vote.
Trustee Stetser?
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair?
I would like to abstain until I obtain more information. There's a lot here that came out I'd like to understand a little bit better. I am in agreement with the necessity of the survey. I would think I would like a little bit of time. I don't know if there's a sense of urgency here. I think if I would have felt more comfortable if we could have had more discussion and had to vote maybe at the next meeting, but that's where I stand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Trustee Keating?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
No.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Moving on.
Lily, I want to push back a little on that. We
You're
get,
questioning my vote? You're questioning my right to vote?
no, you're allowed to vote however you want to.
Thank you.
It's just, we received a packet, we received a quote. You're able to talk at the meeting. You didn't request any other information. So I just think that's not, it's a yes, no
Sometimes things
thing.
come before us, and I hear more information, and it makes me think a little bit, and I don't feel as if I need to rush, and if I needed another meeting to discuss it, then I think it's my right to do so.
Sure.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, now next up, don't be going anywhere.
Oh, I thought that
Yes,
was
Jeff?
I'm a little concerned with trustee Lecter's statement thousands of dollars of legal fees have been spent to close the Arboretum. I don't know that I had anything to do with doing anything in the Arboretum. It's totally a building inspector and DPW function.
Agreed.
I'm not certain.
And we also had our engineer weigh in as well. You did a site visit.
Yeah, I did
With the-
I did a survey of the disturbed areas, and I think you took a look at that, right? That's what I did, so we could verify how much had been disturbed, and I think Steve requested that of me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Jeff, to clarify, my statement was based on looking over all of the bills in the last year, and there are many, many references to discussions about the Arboretum. Aside from the countless hours that this board has been discussing the issue, there's been a large expense of taxpayer money on the legal issues around this. When people really want to walk their dogs.
There are a lot of legal issues now involved in the Arboretum in the way it was developed. But the legal fees were not spent to figure out how to close it.
At all.
It was to figure out how to get it to where we wanted it to be, given where it started.
Yeah, I agree. That was an outrageous statement. I'm with you, Jeff. Thank you.
I didn't say it was outrageous. I said
I'll say it was outrageous.
I was concerned with the implication because I had nothing to do with any closure of the Arboretum.
Okay, and thank you for the clarification. It's appreciated. Next up, cured in place pipelining project bid.
I didn't see paperwork on that. Did we have some?
Sorry. It's 400 pages.
It's a separate cover.
It's a separate. There you go.
I didn't mean to laugh, Dan.
No, we've been
400 pages that was emailed.
This is outrageous.
Well, that's why we're doing it in PDF form. Thank God for PDFs.
I'd like more information.
Well.
Not enough there. I know.
Give us the cliff notes, will you?
Yeah, please, Cliff Notes, yes.
Well, you may want to.
Yeah, Zach, you want to
You may want to chime in.
come up and
but-
chime in?
Well,
You can probably sum it up in less words, that's.
Go ahead.
Wouldn't take much to say.
Let Zach sum it up.
Putting out to bid, the work to have a company come through and video inspect, which would require cleaning, root cutting, all the sanitary sewer mains running on both the east and west side of Sutherland Street from Monroe Ave to Jefferson, and also a small section of pipe running from East Jefferson to South Street between 85 and 87 South Street. And with the possibility of lining completely the 1,400 linear feet of sanitary sewer main throughout that whole area.
That's the master project. This is a term contract, so that hopefully the village can find a contractor that can do that project in addition to other projects and help relieve the DPW from time to time of sort of responsibilities and using techniques and machinery that the DPW doesn't really have.
We don't have access to a lot of this stuff.
Right.
So I've done contracts for the village over the years. I've never done a term contract before.
Mhm.
So this one's kind of different. It is a term contract where we identify an approximate amount of money that we think is going to cost relative to that project to be enticing, for lack of a better word, to the contractors who will bid on that, get unit prices, to determine who the successful bidder is, and then this contract is renewable for a period of 4 years with a renegotiation and new pricing at the end of the year. So that we don't have to do this, so we don't have to
Repeatedly.
create this more than we would like, because it is quite a process to go through and create all that and put it out to bid and advertise and all the things that we've spoken about. It's a lot of administration, a lot of busy work. So, and you know, I think the goal of the DPW is to get a good relationship with a good contractor to do this and help offset some of your tasks that are building up for you.
Yes, 100-year-old sewer system, problematic areas we're going to start with, and hopefully establish some sort of budget on a yearly basis to move forward and address all of the sanitary sewer mains throughout the village of Pittsburgh, and prolong the life of that.
So we put this out to bid and see what comes back.
Yeah.
And
That's
are
right.
you one of the people that bids on this?
No, I'm one of the people who represents you, who observes the bids coming in. I review them with Zach. We take a look at the bid. We have developed 4 criteria that we're going to use in the replies. Price, experience, safety, those sorts of things are considered. So it's not just pure price. Availability. So, and in this process, sometimes we find that we receive good pricing, and we judge the pricing that we get versus the county bid sheet, where the county has identical items that are put out to bid through the county's vendor. So we have a good baseline to compare from. So if we see any spikes, so to speak, in pricing, we have the ability to reject that bid.
Fair enough.
So it's more of the whole bidding process that we're trying to whittle down to no more than 4 years if possible on a term contract.
Great.
So what do you need from us?
Permission to put it out to bid.
Right.
So moved. Jeff?
Jeff?
So my email to you all this week was that I've looked at the first 32 pages, plus I've looked at Exhibit A. I have not gotten through the 380 pages of Exhibits B and C, which are by and large canned documents. Scott, they're used.
There's supplemental in the event that we didn't say something that we should have, or some
So it kind of covers us.
some spec wasn't identified
Okay.
that should have been. We have taken the county specs, we brought those in as a reference, and we've taken the Engineers Joint Documents Committee, which is a 60-some odd page universal standard conditions for any construction contract, and we brought that in as a reference as well. All of this is intended to protect the owner, who is you.
So essentially, those documents have been used repeatedly
They're
as sort of
boilerplate.
standard
Yeah, they're
parts of
boilerplate. The
contracts.
first 32 pages is really the agreement form that
That's the
needs to
guts.
be
Okay.
returned to us, and that's a document that we will evaluate and make a determination from it. And when Zach and I meet and we look through who responded and what their pricing was, then we will respond back to you and say, these were the top people who replied to us, these were the prices that were offered, these are their qualifications. We think that this individual firm is the best choice, and then you can accept our recommendation, or you can reject our recommendation. It's up to you.
So really, based on your review of really the sort of the meat and potatoes part of it,
The legally is fine.
okay.
But I just want to say that
It's
there's
not
been no
complete.
legal review of that
Yeah.
next.
How big are the ballpark the project? Is it a $500,000? Is it
Well, initially
50,000?
for the initial project, which was Sutherland and 8587 South Street, looking at approximately $150,000 if it's lined end to end.
And it may not be lined end to end, depends on what they find when they scan.
Yep.
Right,
The important part is to get the camera in there with professionals who
Right.
know what to look for.
see what we
And
have.
looking for any cracked pipe or slip joints that are causing root infiltration, and then go from there.
And understand that it was, Sutherland was budgeted already,
Yes, this was a
Yeah.
number that was already approved.
Right. so this is already
budget.
in this
Yeah,
budget,
right.
yeah.
And in this document, we put in a number of $100,000 as a nice, easy number, if you will, relative to that, with a caveat that it can go up or down based on, what we learned from the investigation.
Yeah.
That's why we go with the unit pricing,
Okay,
so we can adjust accordingly.
I just want to say the county contract, I believe, is 113 pages, and it's, pretty well, solidified, and covering everybody in it, and Scott added another 300 pages.
Very helpful. Another $3.
Well, the thing is, if you read through the county one, what's valuable about the county one, and I basically took the county specs, I didn't take their agreement. But it was their specifications that I took that I have in there as a reference. But we don't exactly, when I started going through their agreement, we don't exactly fit into that agreement. And I ended up doing, for lack of a better word, a hybrid, using what I had used in the past, representing the village, because the village just operates differently than the county. The structure is different. The service is the same in terms of the materials and what we're talking about, but the way in which a bidder is going to read through that first 32 pages and understands which forms to fill out and who to give it to and that sort of thing, that had to be kind of tailored to the village.
Gotcha. Okay, so,
Just so the board knows, if they move forward with the bid, what we're looking to do is have the advertisement go out next week. The bid opening would be April 21st. Then we'd give 2 weeks for Scott and Zach to review the bids, and then we'd bring it back to the board for approval. At that point, the anticipation and start date of the project would be in next budget year. That's where we spoke in our budget meetings that we shifted that anticipated funds from this year to next year to be spent.
Great, thanks.
thanks for that, yeah. So did you make a motion? Where were we?
Sure, make a motion to send this out to bid as discussed.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Keating.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Stetser.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye,
Motion passes.
okay.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
Well,
Okay,
thank
well,
you, thanks for your
Scott,
good work, thank you very
you
much.
have something I haven't seen since 1994, and that's a Prodigy email address.
Yeah. I'm one of the first.
And one of the last.
And you know, for a while I was getting lost. They weren't taking care of me, and I almost cut over to another email that's associated with my website.
CompuServe or something?
But, well, I actually started out with CompuServe.
Oh,
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah, I actually did start out with CompuServe. You're really taking me back.
Yeah.
But what I found is that now I'm part of this Yahoo AT&T thing, and it's got a lot of stuff in it that my other email doesn't really have.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, I've been using that email for over 25
I would
years.
say closer to 30, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, I don't want people trying to find my email. I mean, they've already got it in
Yeah,
their computer.
that's
Maybe their computer's retired now, for all I know, but yeah, I did start out with CompuServe, now that you mention it, and
Wow, I
dial-up.
haven't heard that. Oh, geez.
Dial-up.
Remember the modem?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thanks so much, good
Sure.
work, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Can I circle back really quick? I think we approved a meeting, a public hearing for April 21st, and I think we meant the 28th. Because our meetings are the
No, the
14th and 28th.
21st is the bid opening.
No, not
Earlier.
this, for earlier.
Hearing date
Oh,
was
did we have
Set
an
a
incorrect
public
date?
hearing on
You're right, it was
the HPB
the
action,
the fine structure.
and that should be the 28th.
Yeah,
That's a good catch, Dan.
Yeah.
yeah, thank you, because I wrote down the 21st. Yeah, let's just double check.
Hold on. I
Okay,
thought I
everybody.
went to the calendar and I thought I was in this
Yeah,
year.
let's look, let's double check.
The Thursday village board is April 28th. Okay.
So do we need to
Do we need to
amend
amend?
that?
Do we amend
Yeah,
with a new
we'll amend
motion?
the date.
So I'll make a motion to amend the date to the 28th of,
For the HPV?
for the HPB.
Fine structure
Thank you.
At 7 o'clock.
at 7 PM. Okay,
Okay.
So,
second?
second?
Okay,
Roll call, trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Keating.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Stetser.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
aye,
Motion passes. Thank you for catching
good
that.
catch.
Just to close the loop on the survey, then I'm going to go forward and redate the abstract as previously authorized.
In English, please?
He's speaking
First
lawyerese,
step to doing the survey was to redate,
to redate the abstract,
To
know.
redate the abstract.
yeah.
which we already
Agreed, you already authorized.
gave him, permission to do. I
Okay,
don't remember which meeting.
We're
I don't
circling
know if I
back.
can do that stuff, Dan. You're asking a lot.
Okay,
Can I get that tonight,
Can you get what?
the abstract? Or is that, it's not convenient tonight?
It's not convenient tonight.
Got it. No
okay,
problem.
okay.
No problem.
You guys work it out.
Not a problem.
Okay, okay, why don't we go to the best value law, the public hearing?
That was
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah, Yeah, I don't have that copy.
Do you guys need me for anything else?
We always need you. I know.
Tomorrow?
No, we're all set.
All right, thank
Thanks
you,
so
guys.
much. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate your input. Okay.
My question on this was, it said basically like, I love the idea of it. It makes a lot of sense. You don't have to take the lowest bid always. There are times when value is more important. But it basically says, we'll tell you what some of those criteria are that you could not take the lowest bid. And we'll be clear about that at a future date. So it felt weird to be approving something with, I'm all for it. It just felt weird.
What, the language maybe? Just
There
like-
isn't language.
Okay.
There is a language about the criteria.
Right.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to guess that the criteria is similar to like what Scott did with this bid. These are the factors we're looking at. It's just not price. We're looking at experience, safety, those things. So it might be as things are bid or.
Depending on what we're looking
Right.
at. Am I correct?
I would say that it is defined.
Okay, you're satisfied with it?
Well,
Yeah,
Okay.
look at paragraph B,
I'm gonna see them.
72.3B. Best value shall have the meaning as providing
Oh.
finance law at 163. So 163 will have a definition of best value, and there'll be case law or attorney general
Yep.
or controller opinions defining what that means, or further refining it.
Okay.
And no, I don't know what that is.
This was the Nikon, they really considered this as a,
Recommend.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what best
Yeah.
value is. It may interest you. Have to find, interested.
terribly interested.
Best value means the basis for awarding contracts or service to the offerer which optimizes quality, cost, and efficiency among responsive and responsible offerers.
Okay. I stand corrected. Thank you.
Okay,
It goes on much longer, but I'm not going to read anymore.
it's a whole thing.
Might be.
Oh, okay.
Open the public hearing.
Yep, we do. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, trustee Stetser.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Plummer.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer. Wow. Trustee
Either-
Keating.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Anybody wishing to comment or speak?
I have nobody from the public at this time.
I'll give it one little tiny minute. No one? Okay,
No hands, no Q&A.
okay,
I got nothing.
okay.
They're very quiet.
Okay. Well, it's so nice out. Maybe everybody's outside. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Keating.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Stetser.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Or do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve local law. What's the number?
I sign at the time.
Best value bidding.
Best value vetting procedure. Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay. Trustee Stetser.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Keating.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Where did we get the idea to do this? Mayor Plummer? It's a good idea.
NICOM, I think.
Nikon, yeah,
Or did
Nikon.
it come from the Association of Mayors?
No, it's Nikon.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's a really good idea.
yeah. It's, considered sort of a best practice for municipalities. Okay, canal path improvement. Just a quick update about the engineer. We found out that the barge that they're going to be using is a very narrow barge and will not disrupt the shoring up the embankment. And they're willing to work with any of the other boats, like the Sam Patch, and they're all in touch, so that's good. And still do not have a start date, so can't give you that. But we have an opportunity. I spoke with Brian Stratton, and he is putting me in touch with the person who oversees all the LWRP funding out of Albany, grant money. So we have an opportunity to really take a look at that portion of the canal path and possibly expanding it. I know we've all talked a little bit about it in the past. It's also, I think, in the comp plan too, taking a look at that. So I think at this point, the board we may want to take a look at some larger engineering, design and planning firms that could come in and help us take a look at that while we go for some grant money. And just wanted to kind of give you that update.
So we need to have our costs up front for the planning even before we go seek the grant money, is what you're saying. We need to invest in a planning firm to help us sketch out some things first.
Beginning, middle, and end.
Right, okay.
Yeah, beginning, middle, and end. So I had met, and you had met also with GPI.
Mm-hmm.
They were the ones who did the Fairport project, and they, really did a great job with that. We certainly could reach out to them. There's also Bergman, and we all remember John Steinmetz. He's done a lot of good work with us, and he is now at Bergman as one of their partners, I guess. So that might be nice to reach out, make that connection again with him. And then there's also MRB, which is, they've done a lot of work also with Fairport. They were recommended to me by Fairport just to get another firm to take a look at this. So y'all interested, maybe just I can reach out to those three firms, and maybe we can have them come in and let's talk with all of us and see what can happen.
Yeah.
Because it is an opportunity, because we are an LWRP, to really go after some of that funding.
And I wonder if some of the funding could then cover the cost of whatever we put into the planning. Sometimes it does.
It can, and also I'm not sure with the LWRP funding, but sometimes it's all sort of in-kind stuff,
Okay.
which is good, so we don't have to keep, paying the cash up front. But that also, depending on how we work this, it could be rolled into a ban, when we had that discussion too, because this is all funds that will come back to us, will be reimbursed. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out to the board, and if you'd like that, I'll go ahead and we'll reach out and we'll schedule these firms to come in and talk.
Sounds good.
Get it going? Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we're going with that. Let's see. Oh, wow, we through all this. Next up, member items. Anybody have some member items?
Did we have I'm sorry, did we have
Did I miss something?
from the town? I read it in the.
The non-municipal, we already did.
We did it.
Oh, you did it?
Yeah.
You did it.
Right here.
You were.
You were.
Yeah. But it was so quick.
It was the beginning.
Really, it was so quick.
It was
We barely,
I'm so sorry.
a 1-minute deal.
it was, we were in, we were out. We were done.
You might even have made a motion on it.
I think you might have. I know.
So I do have a member item.
Okay, we'll go to member items. Okay.
And that is that I don't know if I copied everyone in, and I apologize. I was sending an emails to Dorothea regarding requests from the HPB for books to have on hand at Village Hall. There were 3, and Dorothea responded that indeed that she would look into it and order the books if we didn't have them.
Right, we have one of them, actually, at
We have
one
more than one.
time, we had 2, I'm not sure
Yeah.
what the second copy, the former mayor had me order some books, and I'm still trying to locate all those books that we had ordered in the past, but we will definitely look, if we don't have those others, we'll
Yeah.
put them in stock.
And then I also brought in some books as well that are good reference books, that just from my own personal library. So we're setting up like a little library shelf, right, when you walk up to talk to Steve.
Perfect.
So we're going to have a little like table tent, these are resources for everybody. So, yeah, so great, all great. Yeah. Any other member item?
That was it for me. I did send out the email to everyone regarding a question that was posed to me by HPV members, plural, and I didn't have a response from anyone on this board, so I assume it wasn't of concern. It was to review the video of the meeting, and if there wasn't anything that popped out as a concern, then I will respond to the HPB that they need to put it in writing if there's something specific they would like the board to address.
Okay, all
I
right.
did watch that. I watched the whole, from the very beginning until 56 minutes or something like that, whenever, for that first issue. So I'm happy to, I thought you requested an executive session, so I'd be happy to talk about that if you.
Well, if the board had indicated that, oh, yes, that they
Okay.
felt that it was justified, but otherwise, then I'm not going to press that item. So that's what I will get back to the HPB and let them know.
Okay, all right. Any other member items?
Do you have a member item as well?
Mhm.
I put together some information following the last budget meeting about the sewer funds, and I just wanted to distribute that briefly. I got a few copies. I can also give digital copies to people
Oh,
afterwards.
digital would be great.
Yeah, I just figured I'd do this so that people here have what I'm looking at, and everyone's got the resources on hand.
Okay.
Basically, and this isn't, I realize we have separate sessions for the budget, so I'm not trying to use too much time for that, but I think the village finances are important, and hopefully with this information, we might be able to make adjustments. We've still got some time. The highlights in the sewer budget, a few different things that I put down here for people who might not be familiar with it. Last year, we made contributions to reserve funds under the sewer fund, and this year, we're not doing that. More expenses, including a percentage of the mayor and trustees' salaries, will be directed towards the sewer fund, which were previously under a general fund. A portion of village hall expenses we've talked about. I'm not sure if in the last version those are still.
They were never put in,
Okay.
the board
That
didn't
was just a
directly to do,
discussion.
it was a suggestion.
Okay, great. Well, let me come back to that in a moment, but we've increased the sewer fund rents 10% per year over the last several years. I don't know exactly how many, but it's historically been increased by 10% over the last few years. And we talked about whether we're going to do 5% or 10%. And I guess at the end of the last budget meeting, I didn't really have a good sense for how to direct that. So this is my attempt to distill some information to be able to have opinions about that issue. I think that it's really important to look at the February 21 comptroller's follow-up to the audit. And I would really recommend that everybody read that full report again, because it actually gives guidance on exactly these issues, particularly related to the sewer fund. So I just drew out 4 highlights, but again, everybody should really read this. Related to the sewer fund budgeting, they say, quote, "The board continued to adopt sewer fund budgets with overestimated expenditures." Related to the sewer fund balance, the board continued to adopt unbalanced budgets, resulting in net operating surpluses. Related to the sewer rent rates, it said the board should adjust sewer rent rates to correspond with the annual cost of sewer services provided. And it also cited a continuing net operating surplus. And it mentioned the sewer fund financial plan. It said the board should develop a long-term financial plan for the sewer fund to identify revenue, expenditure, and fund balance trends. Based on looking at the sewer fund tentative budget, it seems like most of these issues are still present, and some might even be exacerbated by the changes that we're making. Essentially, what they're saying is you want to justify. Do I still have the floor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted, asking her something.
Essentially, the comptroller wants us to be transparent and to have structured reserves for the sewer fund, as well as a multi-year capital plan. I think that really makes a lot of sense. What we're doing is that we're actually not putting anything into the reserves, and we're actually putting more into the.
Didn't we just move
fund.
300,000 into a reserve? Didn't we just do that as a board?
And we put an extra 5% in.
And I think
So-
that some of those
I mean,
changes.
I think we're starting to make these moves.
I think we are starting to make
I
some of
think
these
we're
moves.
all wanting the same thing, and I think this is, obviously this could be a really huge discussion, and we appreciate you doing this, but
May I
certainly
continue?
we have a budget meeting on Monday, so.
May I continue with this, please? I'd like this to
Okay,
be something that the board
just
can
another
think
minute?
about.
Okay, just another minute.
Mayor, I believe that a member of the board has the ability to speak based on a board procedure until they're done making their point, unless they're out of order. I
Okay.
believe that talking about the village finances is something that is relevant to this board, and I'm trying to give it.
It is relevant, and we have a budget meeting on Monday. I mean, this, I think we could really, give us some time to go through some stuff,
Perhaps our budget.
and then we would talk in our meeting on Monday.
If I could finish explaining this, what I'm trying
Please
to do.
do.
I
Please
didn't
do.
see the budget
Sure.
meetings as being a time where we had to talk about the budget. We weren't allowed to talk about finances in other meetings. And what I would like to do is bring this information back to the board so we can consider it with as much time as possible. Anyway, thank you for allowing me to continue. So what we have, as the mayor mentioned, brought the $300,000 into the contingency fund. I am concerned that this budget brings more money into the unrestricted fund without going towards the reserves that have been established. So if you flip over this piece of paper here, there's a spreadsheet on the back that I can also share with the computations. But basically, the comptroller cited us for having too much unrestricted fund equity, right? And if we're looking to appropriate the amount that we have expected in this budget, at the end of the year, we're still going to have 152% of what of what we're expected to have in that fund, which according to our fund balance policy, which was renewed in 2020, that's a heck of a lot more than what we said that we should be setting aside as a board. And furthermore, with the 10% increase in the graph here, which you can see, is that the comptroller said we need to justify the sewer rents if we're going to continue increasing them, and we're increasing them, and we're not putting the money into a reserve in a structured way here. So that's another one of my concerns. If we want to bring the expenses back in line, if we want to achieve a balanced budget, and this also does not appear to be a balanced budget because the expenses are greater than the revenues. And it's actually going in the right direction, right, Dorothea?
It was anticipated to use fund balance for the project that you approved tonight to go out to bid. That is what is put us in the negative for this coming year. It was what put us in this budget year in the negative for using fund balance, which was agreed that we should use the fund balance to pay for that project. So we're doing essentially what we need to do.
Okay, well, I would like to talk about that. I don't understand exactly if that was going to come from the unrestricted fund or if that was.
It's coming from unrestricted. It can't come from the restricted because I don't have the proper language to use any restricted funds at this time, nor would I. We have a surplus, as we were saying, in the sewer accounts with the unrestricted. That's one of the reasons why I recommended to the board to establish the reserve in the sewer for the $300,000 for the catastrophic.
And we took that action.
Right.
And we took that action.
Now we're using another $140,000 in the upcoming budget year, which we were going to do in this year, just given everything that's happened, it's delayed. We'll use some of that other unrestricted funds, which will bring our unrestricted fund balance down.
Down, right, because we're taking care of
It's
infrastructure.
a planned use of the fund balance.
Right.
I propose we talk about these that are, I'm responding to Dorothea and
I'm just
Mayor
passing
Plummer.
out.
I propose we talk about this. Thank you for distributing the information. I need time. I'm talking.
How did you get the floor?
Well,
did it.
Dorothea's, I think we're at this point, we're just trying to talk through this, but I need to take a look at this,
And I'd like to just let me summarize that if I may.
Okay, if you can summarize, that would be great, and then
So,
Dan.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I just really had a very short sentence, and there was a break in your bloviating. So can I jump in?
Well, how about if we just have him just finish,
Finished?
and then, thanks, Dan. Okay.
So I believe that there is some strong guidance from the comptroller about what to do with the sewer fund. And I think that while some of the changes that we've made, the contingency fund that we've established, potentially this other project that is coming from the unrestricted fund, I have to give that some more thought, but that seems like we're moving in the right direction by reducing that fund balance. I think that some of those changes are good. We still do not have a balanced fund. We still have a very high surplus in the unrestricted fund based on a percentage of the appropriations. And I think that there's more that we can do with this budget to provide transparency into what we're doing with the sewer fund money in response to the comptroller's letter last year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I go real quick?
Yes, please, you were next.
I don't want to talk about this right now. This board has never, you agree with this, Lily, this board has never liked gotcha moments, and this I consider one. This is not how we do things. we're a team and we distribute important information to each other so that we can review it. So you've distributed it, great. We're going to review it. We'll talk on Monday. The overarching thing that I want to state, though, is that the accusations that it's not in balance, we're not following the following things, our budget is not done yet. We're in a draft. This is what the meetings are for. We have an appropriate channel to discuss those, and those are the budget meetings.
If I may
Thank you. Excuse me one second.
I wasn't addressing you, I was addressing the board.
Excuse me, just 1 second, please. Dorothea, did you have something to add, or you? Okay.
No,
Okay.
Yes, the sewer, technically it looks unbalanced, but it's not unbalanced. And you're budgeting to use fund balance. That's putting it in balance. It is a zero budget at the end of the day, because you are using monies, you're reducing your fund balance, and that's intended that way because you do have a surplus of fund balance in that account. That's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. If this was general budget, which is in balance, that would be a bad thing, because we don't want to use fund balance in this general fund, but we did want to use it in the sewer fund, and that was a practice the board agreed to last year, and we're just mimicking because the project delays.
Right.
So again, I'm just stating it's not a matter of being unbalanced, it's using funds the village has. It's like using a reserve. It's just you put from savings to cover the project.
Great, thank you. Yep.
If
Any more member items?
I have some. I have a few member items. So one was, I did get in touch with Casey on East Jeff Road about the light and RG&E, and I guess Zach needs his address. So is that simple?
Yep.
I didn't realize that. The other thing, nothing major is happening at the Chamber of Commerce. We did give them a whole bunch of these kits so that they could distribute them to the businesses.
That was such a nice idea, thanks for that, that was good.
I think they took quite a bit.
Yeah, we told them like take a few hundred.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
They definitely
okay.
did. They definitely
Good.
reduced. I was very thrilled to see them walk out the
Yeah,
door.
good.
So, yeah.
And we still have a few hundred?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, great.
at least.
There was a post that was going to go up sort of every few months asking for volunteers for boards, right?
We're getting ready to put another one up.
Okay,
Yep,
yeah.
that's
just
going out.
Every few months we
Yep.
do that. You guys saw the communication from 75 Monroe and the legal group there, the developers. There is, I guess, a very important meeting on the 6th of April.
Yeah.
And that's it. Still in favor of direct negotiation wherever possible by any of the boards, and some kind of sense of urgency around that. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
Two
Renee?
things. We mentioned earlier the vote to approve the town events, and one of those was the parade, and it still shows that they're going on North Main Street, normal route to the cemetery.
Yeah.
Do we have any data from NISDOT to when they're going to be starting the North Main Street deck replacement, and whether it's going to be, okay, so we don't know yet. Okay.
We don't know yet, but they know, they know about the
Okay.
parade, they know about all of our events.
All right, yeah, they do. And they're suffering from the same thing everyone else is, getting crews and getting the materials.
It has
So-
been very difficult.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we just need to be aware of that. And I think, crud, I've already lost my other thing.
No, you
So
didn't.
that's it. All right,
No,
I did have two,
I
but
know you did.
I have a second one for you. You and I exchanged texts about this, and there was an accident yesterday
Yeah.
on Monroe
Right in front of
near
my house
Washington.
again. Yeah.
And you raised a really interesting point that I'm sorry to put you on the spot,
No,
wouldn't
it's
mind
okay.
you raising it in public, because I think it's really important around the things that should be there along those roads to improve safety. And
Oh, I was just underscoring how grateful my kids walk that way to school. And in fact, my son and his friend were walking and saw the aftermath of that. And if there weren't street trees and there weren't light posts, I'm very sad that another driver hit one of our heart lights.
I have
However-
good news on the light post.
Yeah.
It survived.
That's good. It didn't- I think that was, unlike
I
some
know.
other ones that were a direct hit, I think that was where the driver's car landed, but yeah. Trees and planters and,
Anything in
Anything,
between
yeah.
pedestrians and cars.
yeah. So, I mean, yes, it's terrible when a driver hits a tree or a pole, which they do often on our arterial roads, and it protects them from killing someone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Is that what the point you wanted
Yeah.
to make? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you remember your second item?
No,
Okay.
it was something about DOT, but,
Um,
and the projects, but,
Yeah, we're still waiting on some start dates from them.
yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's,
fine.
you know, because I
We'll
think,
keep everyone updated, but,
yeah, we'll just try to keep you all posted.
okay, all right.
All right, okay, I make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Roll call.
Was there a second?
Oh, wait a second.
Dan?
Oh, we-
I heard
I made the
Dan was
motion.
second.
Then I second.
Yeah, sorry, I caught you. Okay, trustee Lightgev,
Aye.
trustee Keating,
Aye.
trustee Lampier,
Aye.
trustee Stetser,
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
There were no public,
There was nothing.
There's
There's nothing, no, she's saying there was nobody there, that's why.
Well, no, we had attendees, we had 7 people in attendance, and they're leaving us now.
Yeah, no,
Good night.
no.
Thank you for attending.
but we don't want to formally ask.
I,
I think we do want to
I,
formally
you know, I
ask.
forgot.
Yeah.
Are we still recording? Are we off?
When I,
ending